Welcome, villagers, to the village hidden in the stories. I'm your guide, All Kage, the creator and author behind all the what-if stories you see on this channel, powered by your amazing suggestions. Every story you hear is written, edited, and produced by me, so if you're ever wondering who's behind the magic, it's me. I hope you enjoy today's video. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon to stay updated, like the video, and don't forget to drop your what-if ideas in the comments. Today's story is part 2 of What If Naruto Was in the Legend of Korra. I'm slightly wondering if I should quit this FIC early because I think I wrote myself into a bind. I'll let you guys know soon. Now, without further ado, let's jump into this what if. Part 2, Open Book. My son, I leave this message for you as my last words, my last explanation, and my last wishes for you. I plan to tell you all of this myself. I plan to teach you, to explain things slowly, the way a parent should. If you are reading this, then I failed to do that, and for that, I am sorry. So I will begin with the most important thing. I love you. I always have. I love you now, as I hold you in my arms as a small baby, and I will love you even if I am not there to say it again. Your father loves you too. He is already preparing everything we need so we can leave safely. His name is Minato Namikaze. My name is Kushina Uzumaki. And we both love you with all our hearts. Now, for the heavier parts. Your mother has never been very good with long explanations, so I will try to keep this simple. You are Naruto Uzumaki, a child of Konoha, a place hidden from the world of bending. It was a city like any other, full of people, families, and life. It was destroyed by forces like it, forces that exist beyond what the bending world knows. I do not know exactly who turned our home to ash. But I do know the name of the group responsible. Before I tell you that, you must understand this, I am not giving you this knowledge so that you will chase them. I do not want that. It would be dangerous. It would be foolish. And in the world you are growing up in, it may be impossible. I tell you this only so you understand what happened, not so you feel burdened by it. The world is not as simple as it appears. Most believe there are benders, those who control the elements, and non-benders, those who do not. But that is not the whole truth. There are benders, and there are chakra users. The world holds two energies, chi and chakra. They are similar, but not the same. Chi, and therefore bending, is innate, chakra is something that must be awakened. That may not explain much yet. Your father will explain more in the second half of this scroll, what chakra is capable of, and what you may be capable of, if you ever choose to learn. Chakra users long ago chose to remain separate from the bending world. We believe that each side should find its own balance, away from the other. But just like bending, chakra has its dangers. There are those who use it to destroy. The group responsible for our village's destruction is called the Akatsuki. They wanted something Konoha possessed, something you now carry within yourself. The nine-tailed fox of Konoha. It is a powerful spirit, once captured after attempting to destroy our home. The Akatsuki sought that power and stopped at nothing to claim it. That is why we fled. That is why I ran with you. I do not know the full extent of their plans. But I do know they do not respect the boundaries that protect the bending world from ours. That is why I beg you, do not go after them. Not because you are weak, but because your life is worth more than revenge. There are a few final things I want you to know. There are other villages like ours, hidden places across the world, once as large and alive as Konoha. There were 9. Now there are 8. Another part of this scroll contains their locations, but I do not recommend searching for them. Some things are safer left undisturbed. These last words are not instructions. They are simply the wishes of a mother. I want you to grow into a kind man, like your father. Be strong, but gentle. Eat properly, even when you don't want to. Keep warm. Bathe regularly. Try not to stay up too late. You may be quiet. I think you will be, so please, don't forget to make friends. You don't need many. Just a few good ones who will stand beside you. Study. Learn. Ask questions. I was never very good at that myself. And lastly, some practical advice. You may not know what a shinobi is, so you will likely find your own way of earning a living. Be careful with money, don't lend too much, and don't borrow carelessly. As for alcohol, I never liked it. It tasted awful. Your father doesn't mind it. Either way, wait until you're old enough, and don't drink too much. And about love. Someday, you will be old enough to think about it. I won't embarrass you by saying much. Just this, I hope you find someone kind. Someone like your mother. That is all. Know that I love you. Even if I am gone, I will always love you. Be strong, Naruto. The blonde boy read the scroll for the third time in a week, and it still felt too real. He felt every ache pressed into the paper, every careful word shaped by a mother who knew she wouldn't be there to explain things herself. Every line carried worry, love, restraint. It felt less like reading, and more like listening. The first time, it had made him cry. That part surprised him more than anything else. But beyond what he felt about his past, about his mother, about his father, there was something else that wouldn't let him rest. A question. What now? Running in front of that Sata mobile had awakened something in him. Chakra. The word fit now, even if the meaning still didn't. It explained the what, but not the why. Naruto didn't know what to do with it. He didn't want revenge. He didn't need it. Not only did it go against what his mother had asked of him, it didn't feel right. He'd seen enough, through observation, through reading, to know that a life built on revenge hollowed itself out from the inside. So he could grow. He could learn more about chakra. But why would he? There was no destiny waiting for him. No demand. No obligation pulling at his back. And he had been fine with that. He'd built a life on staying out of the way. On watching. On helping where he could without becoming something larger than himself. But now, that answer felt incomplete. Not wrong. Just unfinished. So what was he supposed to learn chakra for? He didn't know. That was why he hadn't unrolled the scroll all the way. Why he'd stopped before reaching his father's section, before the explanations, the depth, the possibilities. Not because he was afraid of what it said. But because he didn't know what he would do after reading it. Naruto rolled the scroll back up, careful with the edges. For the first time in a long while, he felt genuinely stuck. His books didn't help him here. Neither did logic or observation or knowledge gathered from other people's lives. This wasn't a question he could research. He would have to answer it himself. And right now, he didn't know how. Shit, Korra roared, her voice ripping across the island grass. Naruto's attention snapped to her instantly. He dropped from the edge of the temple roof, landing silently beside the wall before walking over as if he'd been there the whole time. Air Temple Island stretched quiet and dim around them. After a week it still didn't feel like home, but it was a place to sleep. For Korra, apparently, it was also a place to yell at the universe. Korra, Naruto said evenly, concern threading through his calm. It's about 10 o'clock. What are you doing out here? She spun on him, expression caught somewhere between a snarl and a glare. How she managed both at once, he had no idea. I could ask you the same thing, she shot back, jabbing a finger in his direction. Naruto lifted his hands in surrender, palms out. Fair. The tension lingered for half a second, then Korra exhaled hard, shoulders sagging as the edge drained out of her. Sorry, she muttered, rubbing the back of her neck. It's just been a long week. Naruto lowered his hands, nodding once. Yeah. It really has. Naruto studied her for a moment, then spoke gently, do you want to talk about it? Korra glanced at him. Surprised, not by the question, but by how sincere it sounded. After a beat, she nodded. Yeah, she said quietly. We haven't really had time to. Not since. Everything. She paced a few steps through the grass, boots scuffing against the earth. Every day this week has been the same. Meditation. Breathing. Sitting still. She scoffed. I'm supposed to be learning freedom, but I'm stuck on an island with white lotus sentries watching my every move. It's like the compound all over again, just with better views. Naruto listened without interrupting. And then there's the training, she continued. Tenzin keeps throwing that ancient airbending relic at me, she mimed getting smacked across the face. And tells me I need to be the leaf. Like that's supposed to just click one day. She threw her hands up. It hasn't. Not even close. Naruto gave a small nod, filing it all away. And on top of that, Korra added, her tone sharpening again, I'm not even allowed to watch a pro-bending match. Can't go. Can't listen. Nothing. Just sit here and wait for it to magically make sense. Naruto was quiet for a moment. He could see it now, the shift. Back at the compound, Korra had always taken to elements fast. Almost instinctively. This time, she was pushing just as hard, but nothing was answering back. Katara had warned him about this once. About how the Avatar always struggled with the element most unlike them. Aang with earth. Korra with air. He knew she'd get there eventually. There wasn't a war breathing down her neck this time. Still. It didn't make it any less frustrating. So, he asked gently, no airbending yet? Korra froze. Then she turned away, crossing her arms tightly, expression sour in a way that felt almost childlike. Naruto spoke again immediately. It's just a question, Korra. You know I only ask so I know what I'm working with. She sighed. I know. Doesn't mean I like saying it. Naruto nodded. Fair. Then, after a beat, and honestly? You probably won't bend air for a while. She spun back to him. Hey, I don't mean that in a bad way, he said quickly. You can't force this one like you did water, earth, or fire. She narrowed her eyes. You sound just like Tenzin. Naruto shrugged. Maybe he knows what he's talking about. She opened her mouth to argue, but he added, that said, the whole, never leaving the island, thing? And banning you from pro-bending entirely? Yeah. That part's overboard. Korra blinked. Wait. You agree with me? I've been walking the city when I can, Naruto said. Trying to find something. And keeping you locked up here isn't helping. That made her pause. The tension in her shoulders eased just a bit, she tilted her head, studying him. Is this about what we talked about before? Naruto glanced away briefly. She grinned. You know. The whole, flipping a car through a building, thing. She nudged him with her elbow. Feel like doing that again anytime soon? He didn't laugh, but he did reply dryly. If I tried that again, I'd probably get flattened. I haven't been able to replicate it. He slipped the scroll back into his jacket as he spoke. I think I know how I could learn more. About all that. He hesitated. I just don't know if I want to. Or need to. Korra frowned slightly. She didn't fully understand what he meant, chakra, scrolls, hidden villages, it all still felt abstract. The idea that he might just be a weirdly strong metal bender was still on the table. But that didn't explain the speed. Or the look in his eyes when the car flipped. What she did understand was that he'd been thinking about this alone. Carrying it quietly, the way he always did. It made her feel a little guilty for unloading on him. She grumbled under her breath, then looked past him, toward the city lights across the water. Toward the golden curve of the pro-bending arena glowing in the distance. A slow smirk spread across her face. She turned back to him. "Hey, Naruto?" He looked at her. "Yeah? Wanna sneak out?" His eyebrow lifted. "To do what?" Korra's grin widened. How did he let her talk him into this? Naruto wondered as he followed Korra through the outer corridors of the pro-bending arena. They slipped along the curved perimeter of the stadium, skirting the edges just as a match was about to begin. Korra had convinced him, somehow, that sneaking off the island to watch a match was a good idea. She wanted to see it. He hadn't said no. So now he was here. The two moved quietly past doors leading into different sections of the massive structure, unused training rooms, storage areas, hallways sealed off for reasons Naruto didn't want to think about. The entire place formed a wide, circular maze. Korra smirked as she turned another corner. Naruto followed, glancing ahead and behind them, already mapping exits in case they needed to bolt. They stopped at a pair of double doors. They were wide open. Inside was a bending gym. Equipment littered the space from wall to wall: punching bags, weighted nets, earth discs, pommel horses, battered dumbbells. Old, worn, clearly used for years without replacement. It wasn't pretty, but it had a weight to it. A history. Korra stepped inside without hesitation, eyes sweeping the room like she was deciding what to try first. Naruto hesitated, then followed. Before either of them could take another step, "Hey!" The voice was rough. Bitter. Loud enough to echo. They turned to see an older man blocking the entrance. Shorter than Naruto, broader than Korra, built like a powerlifter who'd never stopped lifting. He wore a simple tank top, his head balding just enough to be obvious, his scowl deep enough to look permanent. It made Korra falter. It made Naruto shift back half a step. They'd been caught. "What are you doing in my gym?" The man snapped, stomping toward them. He stopped just below Naruto's height. That didn't make him any less threatening. Korra forced an innocent smile. "We were just looking for a bathroom and got lost." The lie was fast. It was also terrible. The man didn't budge. "I had to pee" excuse, he growled. "I'm sick of you kids sneakin' in without payin'." He jabbed a finger at Naruto. "I'm talking both of you to security." Korra's eyes widened. Naruto tensed, scanning the room, doors, corners, anything that might give them an opening. There wasn't one. "There you two are." The calm voice cut through the tension like a knife. All three turned. Another figure stood in the hallway, about their age. Tan skin, green eyes, short black hair slicked back just enough to look intentional, even if it wasn't. He was built, lean, strong, and wore a red pro-bending uniform, a white jumpsuit with streamlined red pads, light armor, and a green sash tied at his waist. He carried himself with easy confidence. A little smug. A little goofy. "I've been looking everywhere for you," he said casually as he stepped closer. "It's all right. Toza. They're with me." Korra didn't miss a beat. "Yeah," she said quickly. "We're with him." Naruto relaxed just enough to stop looking like he was about to run, but not enough to rule it out completely. Toza looked between the three of them, clearly deciding whether to call their bluff. He sighed. "Fine," he muttered. "I don't care anymore. Just get them out of my gym. I got work to do." He brushed past them and bent down to lift one of the dumbbells, its core shimmering faintly, as if layered with water and earth inside the metal. The boy who'd saved them smirked to himself and gestured for them to follow. As they moved, Korra leaned in just enough to whisper, "Thank you." The boy glanced back over his shoulder, grin widening. "No problem." They were led through the stadium again, but this time the winding halls opened into something far larger, the main locker room. It was a simple, boxy space built directly beneath the stands, open on one side to the arena itself. No walls separated them from the roar of the crowd, just a railing and open air. From here, Korra and Naruto could see everything, the packed seats rising in waves, the pro-bending platform split cleanly into red and blue halves, hovering a few feet above the water by some piece of Republic City technology Naruto didn't even want to guess at. Below it all, water churned softly, waiting for anyone unlucky enough to get knocked off. The noise hit them all at once. Naruto had never cared much for pro-bending. It had always been Korra's thing, something she listened to back at the compound, excitedly narrating matches while he half-read a book nearby, but this was different. The sound alone buzzed in his chest, contagious in a way that made it hard not to feel something stir. The crowd wasn't just loud, it was alive. For the first time all week, his thoughts loosened their grip. Maybe, just for a little while, he didn't need to think about the scroll. Or his past. Or what he didn't yet understand. Maybe he could just watch a match with his friend, and judging by the view, yeah. These were absolutely the best seats in the house. As if reading the thought on his face, the boy finally broke the silence. "So?" he asked, grin firmly in place. "What do you guys think? Best seats in the house, right?" Korra didn't even try to hide it. Her eyes were wide, fixed on the arena, a grin spreading across her face like she might actually burst. "This is unbelievable," she breathed, almost to herself. The boy smiled at her, fondly enough that Naruto noticed, before turning his attention to him. "You don't talk much, do you?" he asked, eyebrow lifting. Korra laughed lightly. "Naruto's always been like that. He doesn't say anything until he's got all his thoughts lined up, or until he thinks it actually matters." She leaned against the railing, still staring out at the platform. "I've been trying to get him to stop doing that for years." The boy nodded, accepting that easily. Naruto exhaled softly. "It's a nice view," he admitted. "I can see why Korra's always liked this stuff." The grin widened. "Glad to hear it. Name's Bolin." Naruto dipped his head in acknowledgement. "Naruto." Before anything else could be said, two more figures entered the locker room. Naruto noticed them immediately. Both were around their age. One was taller, built leaner than Bolin, with dark brown eyes and short, pointed hair that looked more practical than stylish. He wore the same pro-bending gear, but with a red sash at his waist. There was something about the way he carried himself, quiet, focused, restrained, almost familiar. The other had shoulder-length black hair and blue eyes, his expression unreadable as he adjusted his blue sash. He didn't seem bothered by their presence at all. The taller one glanced at Naruto briefly, just long enough to assess him, then shifted his gaze to Korra before turning away and opening his locker to strap on extra gear. Focused, Naruto thought. Almost too much for a sport. Bolin was called over a moment later, the taller one speaking in a low voice as he worked. "I told you," the man muttered, "you've got to stop bringing your crazy fangirls in here before matches. Get her out of here." Bolin sighed. "Come on, Mako." He brightened immediately, pointing over his shoulder at Korra. "I kinda promised her she could stay. And, look, I've got a good feeling. There's something special about her. I know it." Before Korra could react, Bolin grabbed her shoulders and guided her forward. "Come on, you've got to meet my brother." Korra offered her hand eagerly as the taller one stepped closer. "Mako? Wow, I've heard you playing on the radio." Mako didn't take her hand, he didn't even look at it. "Come on, Bolin," he said flatly. "We're up." Korra stared at her outstretched hand for half a second before awkwardly pulling it back. "Or I could meet him later." Bolin winced. "Yeah, sorry about that. He gets real focused before a match." He slipped on his helmet, tying the straps quickly. Okay, gotta go. Wish me luck. He leaned in, stage whispering. Not that I'll need it. Korra pumped her fist, excitement undimmed. Good luck. Knock 'em out. Naruto watched as a metal platform extended from the main platform to the locker room. Bolin jogged toward the arena with Mako and his other teammate, the crowd's roar swelling even louder. Naruto leaned on the railing beside Korra, eyes scanning the arena, not just the fighters, but the way they moved. The match started faster than Naruto expected, the ring announcer barely finishing the introductions before the crowd erupted. Bolin, Mako, and Hasuke of the Fire Ferrets. The voice boomed. Immediately followed by the opposing team, the Tigardillos, whose names Naruto didn't bother committing to memory. The announcer whipped the crowd into a frenzy, voices colliding into a single roar just as the match began, and suddenly, it clicked. Pro bending wasn't just bending, it was a team fight ring, 3 benders per side, fire, earth, and water, each role distinct. Not just about power, but about coordination. Timing. Reading each other as much as reading the enemy, Bolin anchored the team, earth discs snapped into place at a moment's notice, blocks, counters, hard hits meant to disrupt and pressure. He was heavy, solid, surprisingly light on his feet for his build. And hard to knock down once he found his rhythm. Mako was the opposite, all precision and aggression. He struck at every opening, flames sharp and deliberate, never wasted. He moved constantly, exploiting slip-ups, weaving away before retaliation could land. Hasuke was harder to place. Naruto watched him closely. Water should have been flexible, adaptive, but Hasuke seemed caught between roles. He countered more than he attacked, defended without fully committing, and more than once he drifted into his teammate's space. He had moments of competence, but they were drowned out by hesitation, too slow, too unsure. More than once, it nearly cost them the match. In the end, it was Mako who pulled the win out of nowhere, dodging. Exhausting, isolating the remaining opponents until he stood alone in a 3-on-1. The announcer shouted about his signature hat trick as the final opponent was knocked into the water. Fire Ferrets, victory. Naruto found himself genuinely surprised. This wasn't what he'd expected at all. It wasn't just hurling elements to overpower someone. It was restraint. Timing. Strategy. Every move mattered, because there was no room for excess. Now he understood why Korra used to listen to matches on the radio back at the compound, and for once, it was a relief not to think about the scroll. Watching the match, it felt like everyone down there had figured something out about themselves, and accepted it. Like they'd found a way to move that fit who they were, like Korra had said. Naruto paused at that thought. Before he could dwell on it, the metal platform extended from the arena toward the locker room once more. Bolin was the first to step off, throwing his arms into the air. He did it. He hooped, spinning around toward Korra and Naruto. He actually did it. One more win and we're in the championships. Korra looked almost as excited as Bolin, maybe more. All it took to set her off was him adding, "So? What did you think? I've got some moves, right?" "What did I think?" Korra repeated, grabbing his uniform playfully. "Naruto," he asked, "what did I think?" Naruto smiled faintly but stayed quiet. "Well, I'll tell you what I think." Korra shouted, pushing Bolin back with an enthusiastic shove. "That was amazing." Bolin stumbled but laughed it off, getting used to Korra's excitement, and her strength. Naruto chuckled under his breath. She always underestimated how strong she was when she got like this. Once the moment settled, he crossed his arms and gave Bolin a single nod. No words. It was enough. Bolin's grin brightened, until a sharp voice cut through the room. "What were you doing out there, Hasuke?" Mako snapped as the platform finished retracting. "You were all over Bolin. You almost threw the match." Hasuke scowled. "Lighten up. We won, didn't we?" "Barely." Mako shot back. Hasuke stopped dead, turning on him. "Get off my case. A win's a win." He ripped off his helmet and stormed out. Silence followed, thick and awkward. Mako clenched his jaw. Useless, he muttered. Korra ignored the tension. You guys were incredible out there, she said brightly. Especially you, Mr. Hat Trick. Mako barely looked at her. You're still here? He turned back to his locker. Korra's grin fell. Wow. Still a jerk. Naruto leaned against the railing, studying Mako. No one acted that cold without a reason. Before he could think further, Korra was already buzzing again. Anyway, she said, turning back to Bolin, I've been bending my whole life. And I've never seen it used like that before. Naruto nodded. It's a different approach. Effective. He hesitated. But I do see some issues. Bolin's eyes lit up. Issues? Korra turned to Naruto, curious. Even Mako glanced his way. Naruto took a breath. This was usually the moment he stayed quiet, but he didn't. Naruto took a breath. Bolin first, he said, tone even, not critical, observational. You're a defender. Light on your feet, sturdy when you get hit. You don't go down easily, and that matters more than people realize. Bolin straightened a little, but, Naruto continued, you spend too much time waiting for an opening instead of creating one. You're trying to be precise like Mako. He shook his head slightly. That's not your role. Bolin blinked. It's not? No, Naruto said simply. You're a hammer. Still skilled, still controlled, but forceful. You should be breaking their rhythm, not matching it. When you hesitate, you lose what makes you dangerous. Bolin's shoulders slumped just a bit. Naruto noticed immediately. That's not a bad thing, he added. It's just what I saw. Bolin nodded slowly, processing. Naruto turned next. Mako. Mako lifted his chin, guarded but listening. Your precision is incredible, Naruto said. You read openings faster than anyone on that platform. But you're relying on that too much. He tilted his head. If you were just a little faster, just enough, you'd decide matches before they even stabilized. Mako frowned, then considered it. Speed, he muttered. Naruto nodded. Even a small increase would change everything. Then Naruto hesitated, and Hasuke. He started, then stopped. The waterbender was already gone, his absence louder than his presence had been. Naruto frowned slightly. He's scattered. Not because he's bad, because he doesn't have a defined role. He exhaled. You don't need someone better than either of you. You need balance. Meaning? Mako asked. Another striker, Naruto said. Someone quick like you, but heavier. Someone who can counter and hit hard, and move without getting in the way. He glanced back toward the door Hasuke had stormed through. An all-rounder. Someone who can play off both of you. Silence followed, then Mako let out a slow breath. That was actually useful. Korra grinned. Told you. Mako looked at Naruto again, this time with open curiosity. What's your name? Naruto. Mako nodded once. You watch closely. Korra crossed her arms, still unimpressed. You're still kind of a jerk. Mako rolled his eyes. Korra ignored him and turned back to Bolin. But seriously, those styles you guys have are cool, wish you could teach me. Bolin brightened again. Hey, I totally could teach you a few moves. He hesitated, scratching the back of his head. I mean, not sure how that'd translate to waterbending. Though. Korra's smirk sharpened, the kind Naruto recognized instantly. Oh, she said lightly. I'm actually an earthbender. Bolin froze. Oh. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to assume, I just thought with the water tribe outfit. She waved him off, grin widening. You're right. I am a waterbender. And, she added casually, a firebender. Bolin stared. Okay, now I'm confused. Mako groaned, realization hitting him like a brick. You're the Avatar. Korra nodded proudly. Yep. And I'm an idiot. Also true, she said smugly. Naruto finally cracked, turning away just enough to hide his smile. After that, Bolin led them deeper into the stadium, into one of the training gyms tucked behind the arena. He showed Korra the movements he used in pro bending: quick footwork, a solid stance when it mattered, snapping earth discs out fast and controlled instead of overcommitting. Korra took to it immediately. She always did. The techniques slid into place like they'd been waiting for her. Her movements fluid, instinctive, adapting the style almost as fast as Bolin demonstrated it. Naruto stayed back, leaning against the wall, watching. At some point, Mako joined him, up close. The firebender was different. Still reserved, still sharp around the edges, but not unkind. Just guarded. Like someone who'd learned early not to give too much away. Naruto understood that. Talking with him opened something up, not about pro bending, but about himself. He didn't tell Mako the truth. Not really. He framed it carefully, a family tradition he'd inherited, something he could learn but wasn't sure he should. No obligation. No expectation. Just a choice he didn't know how to make. Mako's answer came without hesitation. It's your call, he said simply. If you don't need it, that doesn't mean it's pointless. People learn things for all kinds of reasons. Naruto hadn't thought about it like that. He'd always learned because he had to, because he wasn't strong, because he wasn't a bender, because knowledge was the only way he knew how to keep up. Learning something just to learn it felt strange, but maybe that was the point. This wasn't about making up for something he lacked. It wasn't about filling a gap, it was about understanding a part of himself he'd never known existed: chakra. The scroll. His mother's words, she'd warned him against chasing it, but the more he thought about the other villages, about the hidden places scattered across the world, the more he felt the pull of curiosity instead of obligation. And he had to admit, learning had always been something he enjoyed. Why should this be any different? Korra's words drifted back to him. It feels like being yourself. That surge he'd felt in the street. It hadn't scared him. It had felt natural. Like something that belonged. Why not learn more about himself, for himself? Naruto smiled, small and genuine. For the first time, the idea didn't feel heavy, it felt right. Naruto walked the outer paths of Air Temple Island with the scroll tucked loosely under his arm, the sea breeze tugging at his jacket as morning light spilled over the stone. He hadn't gone looking for anyone in particular, just letting his feet take him where they wanted, giving his thoughts room to breathe. That was how he found Tenzin. One of the meditation rings sat slightly apart from the rest, a small circular platform of wood and stone, open on three sides to the sky and ocean beyond. Wind chimes hung quietly from the beams above, barely moving. Sunlight filtered in through the open slats. Warm but gentle, Tenzin sat at the center, legs folded, back straight, eyes closed. Naruto slowed, then stopped just short of the platform. For a moment he considered leaving quietly, but instead he spoke, voice low, "Morning." Tenzin's eyes opened. He looked up, surprised for half a second before his expression settled. "Good morning," he replied. There was something off. Not hostile. Just distant. Like his thoughts were still somewhere else. Naruto didn't comment on it. He adjusted his grip on the scroll and gave a small nod. "I hope," he said simply, "whatever you're thinking about, you're able to figure it out." He turned to leave. Wait. Naruto paused, glancing back. "How did you know?" Tenzin asked. "That I was troubled." Naruto blinked once, then shrugged lightly. "You make the same face I would," he said. "The one you get when you're thinking too hard about something and pretending you're not." Tenzin let out a quiet chuckle at that, more surprised than amused. His shoulders eased just a bit. "I didn't realize it was that obvious." Naruto tilted his head. "It is, if you're used to looking." Tenzin studied him more closely now, curiosity creeping in. You're quite young to speak like that. Naruto glanced down at the scroll under his arm without really meaning to. Tenzin didn't seem to notice. My life's gotten more complicated than I expected, Naruto said. But I'm figuring it out. At my own pace. He hesitated, then added more softly, honestly, it's probably always been complicated. I just didn't want to admit it. A quiet moment passed between them, filled only by the distant cry of seabirds. Naruto shifted his weight. Anyway, we're technically kind of family. Katara raised me, so, Tenzin raised an eyebrow. Naruto immediately waved that off. Okay, not like brothers. Bad comparison. Forget that. Tenzin's lips twitched. What I mean, Naruto continued, rubbing the back of his neck, is that even if we don't talk much, I'm around. If you ever need someone to talk to. He took a step back. I'm gonna go find Korra. He turned again, Naruto. He stopped. Tenzin looked at him, expression more serious now. Are you close with Korra? Naruto thought about it. Really thought, I think so, he said finally. Tenzin nodded once. Then you know how difficult she can be. Naruto nodded back. Stubborn. Impulsive. Loud. Yes, Tenzin said dryly. She's been rejecting every lesson I try to give her. She won't meditate. She won't slow down. She hears me speak of freedom, but none of it seems to reach her. His voice dropped, frustration seeping through. I just wish there were a way to make it click. Naruto was quiet for a moment. He remembered Korra pacing the grass at night, shouting curses into the air. The way she described her training, circles, rules, waiting, stillness. The compound, just with different walls. I don't think it's the teachings, Naruto said carefully. I think it's how they feel to her. Tenzin looked up. You talk about freedom, Naruto continued, but all she sees is another version of what she's lived her whole life. The compound. The White Lotus. Being watched. Protected. Restricted. He gestured vaguely to the island around them. This place. It's beautiful. But to her, it's still a cage. Tenzin frowned, not in anger, thoughtfully, an airbending ideology, Naruto added, the spiritual side of bending. That stuff matters. It really does. But it's going to take time. And telling her it'll just click one day isn't helping. He paused. Some things, like meditation, might not even work for her. At least not the way you're teaching it. Tenzin was silent now. All she really needs, Naruto finished, is a different way to see what you're trying to show her. A different angle. And some real freedom. The wind stirred, chimes finally ringing softly overhead. After a long moment, Tenzin exhaled. Pema said something similar, he admitted. Naruto smiled faintly. Sounds like her. I'm not her teacher, Naruto said, stepping back into the sunlight. I'm her friend. I just try to keep her from doing something stupid. Or running headfirst into danger. That earned a quiet huff from Tenzin. The rest, Naruto added, that's up to you. He adjusted the scroll under his arm and turned away, heading down the stone path toward another part of the temple, toward Korra, and toward his own unanswered questions. The sun followed him as he went. Hours slipped by faster than Naruto expected. He never found the chance to open the rest of the scroll. Every time he thought he'd found a quiet corner, laughter or shouting or the unmistakable sound of something crashing followed soon after. For a place called an air temple, it wasn't very quiet, especially not with Ikki and Milo. They were storms all on their own, laughing, shouting. Running full speed across stone walkways like gravity was a suggestion rather than a rule. After the third near collision and one particularly enthusiastic air scooter mishap, Naruto finally gave up on the idea of solitude. Instead, he followed the noise. It led him to Korra's training. She stood at the edge of a wide stone platform, dressed in loose air nomad clothing, sleeves rolled back, hair tied away from her face. In front of her loomed an old air-bending mechanism, an intricate circle of tall wooden panels carved with traditional patterns, each mounted on rotating arms. They were already spinning, fast, some turned clockwise, others against it, wind ripping through the gaps as the panels cut the air. The whole structure hummed with motion, a controlled chaos meant to teach flow, timing, restraint, a test. Naruto stopped at the edge of the training space, leaning casually against a pillar, eyes sharp. This should have been perfect for her. Korra excelled in motion. Power. Forward momentum. She thrived when things hit hard and fast, but this wasn't that. Tenzin stood behind her with his children, hands folded into his sleeves, calm and unreadable. "Begin when you're ready," he said. Korra inhaled sharply, annoyance already flickering across her face. She squared her shoulders, and ran. She darted forward, slipping between two spinning panels with impressive speed. For a split second, Naruto thought she had it, then a panel clipped her shoulder, another caught her leg. The wind knocked her sideways, slamming her into the wooden surface with a grunt before throwing her back out into the circle. She stumbled, recovered, rushed forward again, and was knocked down harder this time. "Patience, Korra," Tenzin called out. Naruto frowned. She pushed herself up, jaw clenched, breath heavy. Again she charged in, forcing her way through the spinning gates rather than moving with them. It didn't work. A panel struck her square in the side, sending her skidding across the stone. She hit her knees, and that was it. The air changed. Naruto felt it before he saw it. Korra snapped, fire exploded outward in a violent arc, flames ripping through the ancient mechanism. Panels cracked, burned, shattered, wood splintering and falling as the structure collapsed in on itself. Wind screamed, then vanished, replaced by smoke and embers. Silence followed. Naruto didn't move, neither did Tenzin's children, who stared wide-eyed at the wreckage. Tenzin himself stood frozen, shock written plainly across his face. Korra stood in the center of the destruction, chest heaving, fists clenched, surrounded by smoldering debris. That, Tenzin said slowly, voice tight, was a 2,000-year-old historical treasure. He closed his eyes, then opened them again, anger flaring. "What is wrong with you?" Korra spun on him. "There's nothing wrong with me." She shot back. "I've been practicing exactly how you taught me, and it isn't sinking in. It hasn't clicked like you said it would." Naruto's gaze sharpened. Tenzin took a breath, forcing calm into his voice. "Korra, airbending isn't something you can force. If you would only listen, I have been listening," she yelled, hands thrown wide. "But you know what I think? Maybe the problem isn't me." She pointed straight at him. "Maybe the reason I can't airbend is because you're a terrible teacher." The words hit hard. Korra turned and stormed away, boots striking stone with sharp finality. Naruto watched her go. Behind him, Milo suddenly pointed at Tenzin, breaking the tension with unfiltered enthusiasm. "Yeah. You're a terrible teacher, Daddy." That earned him a synchronized look from Jinora and Ikki before he ran forward, kicking at the broken remains of the mechanism and loudly imitating Korra's tantrum. Tenzin bowed his head, shoulders sagging. Jinora and Ikki stepped closer, hugging him from either side. Naruto found Korra near one of the quieter walkways, away from the broken mechanism and the watching eyes. Korra had already changed out of her air nomad clothes, back in her familiar water tribe outfit, blue sleeveless tunic, loose pants, fur belt. She sat on a low stone ledge, elbows on her knees, staring at the ground like it had personally offended her. She noticed him before he spoke. "What are you doing here?" Korra asked, the words coming out sharper than she meant. She tried to soften it halfway through. Didn't quite succeed. Naruto stopped a few feet away, took her in for a moment, then nodded to her. "Moping," he said plainly. "Not really your strong suit." She scoffed. "Yeah? And you know what is my strong suit." Naruto rolled his eyes and sat down beside her, leaving just enough space to not crowd her. "Pretty sure I do. Unless you suddenly forgot we lived together for years." She huffed, then turned her head away. "Don't pretend you know what's wrong." He didn't answer right away. You're not a bender, she continued, frustration leaking back in. You don't get what this is like. You don't, she stopped, her shoulders tensed as the words caught up to her. That I didn't mean that, Korra muttered quickly. I'm sorry. Naruto shook his head. Don't. She looked at him, surprised. I don't understand, he said calmly. Not really. Not at all. He kept his voice even. We're dealing with very different things. I get you, but I can't imagine what it's like to be in your position. Korra looked away again, guilt twisting in her chest. Naruto continued, softer now. But I didn't come here with you to Republic City just to hang out. Or for the vibes. Or because traveling sounded fun. He met her gaze. I came because I knew my friend would need me. Korra swallowed, and lashing out at Tenzin because you're frustrated? Naruto added. That's not a path you want to go down. He let the words settle, so talk to me. She didn't answer immediately. Naruto waited. Finally, Korra sighed. You already know the problem. I told you last night. He nodded. Yeah. I shouldn't have yelled at him, she admitted. I know that. But nothing's changed. I'm not any closer to airbending than I was back at the compound. She gestured vaguely around them. And all these White Lotus sentries? It's not helping. Naruto was quiet for a moment, then sighed. No one here is actually wrong, he said. Tenzin's right, you need focus. And you're right, you need freedom. She frowned. Those don't really go together. They can, Naruto said. You just both keep treating them like opposites. Korra looked at him. You need a different way to look at what he's trying to teach you, Naruto continued. Not to throw it away. Not to replace it. Just to see it differently. And you think you can help with that? She asked, skeptical, but hopeful. He shrugged. Yeah. Mostly because I hate seeing you this angry and mopey. She snorted despite herself, but, Naruto added, first things first. Korra groaned. I don't like where this is going. You need to apologize to Tenzin, he said simply. She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it again. Yeah, she admitted quietly. I do. Naruto nodded once, satisfied. Good, he said, standing and offering her a hand. Then we'll figure the rest out. Korra didn't storm this time. That alone made Tenzin look up. He was seated at the edge of the meditation ring, posture rigid, hands folded but not relaxed. The wind moved gently through the open structure, but it didn't seem to reach him. Korra stopped a few steps away, hesitating. I'm sorry. She said at last. Tenzin opened one eye, then the other. Surprise flickered across his face before he smoothed it away. For earlier, she added quickly. I shouldn't have yelled at you. You were trying to help, and she exhaled sharply. I lost my temper. Tenzin studied her in silence for a moment. Then he nodded once. Thank you, he said quietly. What you broke can be repaired. What concerned me was you. Korra shifted, looking away. Naruto stood off to the side, hands in his pockets, saying nothing. I have been thinking, Tenzin continued. About what happened. About what you said. His tone softened, but doubt still lingered beneath it. Perhaps I have been too rigid in my approach. Korra glanced up, hopeful but cautious. You speak of freedom, Tenzin went on, but your life has been anything but free. I may have underestimated how that affects your learning. He hesitated. I was considering allowing you to attend a pro-bending match. To observe. Korra's eyes lit up instantly. Naruto winced. That we already did, he said. Tenzin turned slowly. You what? Naruto raised a hand. One night. I went with her. Tenzin's face tightened, jaw setting, brow furrowing, as he processed that. For a moment it looked like he might explode. Instead, he closed his eyes and took a long breath. Of course you did, he muttered. Korra braced herself. When he opened his eyes again, the edge had dulled. I suppose that only reinforces my point, Tenzin said. Restriction alone will not teach freedom. Naruto relaxed slightly, but, Tenzin added, turning his attention fully to Naruto now, I don't believe you would come here only to apologize. Naruto nodded, stiffening slightly in awareness. I'm good at seeing how people understand things, Naruto started. And right now, you're telling Korra what airbending is. She hears it. She understands the words. But she doesn't see it. Korra frowned. I'm trying to. I know, Naruto said, immediately. But you're being asked to feel freedom while being told to sit still. Tenzin crossed his arms. Stillness is not imprisonment. No, Naruto agreed. But to her, it feels like one. That landed harder. Tenzin didn't argue, but he didn't concede either. And you believe you can resolve this contradiction? Naruto hesitated. No, that seemed to catch Tenzin off guard. I just think I can help reframe it, Naruto said. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Silence stretched. Tenzin looked from Naruto to Korra. Very well, he said at last. Show me what you mean. Naruto turned to Korra. Focus on me. She did, automatically shifting into a ready stance. Don't think about airbending, Naruto said. Think about a fight. Tenzin opened his mouth, but Korra was already listening. When someone swings at you. Naruto continued, lifting his hands, you don't just dodge. You move with it. Let their force pass you instead of stopping it. Like spinning away from a punch so you're already moving when it misses. He threw a slow, clumsy punch. Nothing special. No power behind it. Korra reacted without thinking. She turned, fluid, instinctive, her body rotating as if carried by the motion rather than resisting it. The air shifted around her, subtle but undeniable, as Naruto's fist cut harmlessly through empty space. She stopped, blinking. That. She breathed. That felt easy. Tenzin stared. You didn't force the movement, he said slowly. You didn't brace against it. Naruto nodded. She didn't try to control the air. She let herself move. Tenzin took a step forward, studying Korra as if seeing her anew. Again. Korra tried it once more. This time, the motion was even smoother. Something inside Tenzin finally shifted. He straightened, thoughtful. Perhaps, he said carefully, the problem was not the lesson. But the language. Naruto exhaled softly. I'm not replacing you, he said. I just say things differently. Tenzin met his eyes, and inclined his head. Then we will try, he said. Together. Korra smiled, bright and relieved. For the first time since arriving on the island, it felt like the path forward wasn't a wall, but an opening. Training didn't suddenly become easy, but it stopped feeling impossible. Korra still stumbled through the movements, still bristled when she had to slow down, but something had changed. Naruto saw it in the way she shifted her weight now, less forcing, more reacting. In the way she stopped trying to muscle past the air and instead let it slide around her, even if it knocked her off balance afterward. There was no gust. No spark. No miracle, just progress, and for the first time since arriving in Republic City, Korra didn't look angry when training ended. She looked excited. Night fell warm and bright over the city, lights glittering against the water like scattered stars. Korra barely made it through dinner before bouncing on her heels, eyes shining as she turned to Naruto. Come on, she said, already halfway out the door. I wanna see another match. Naruto huffed a quiet laugh but followed, the city swallowing them up as they made their way back toward the arena. He didn't need to ask why. Tonight wasn't about escape. It was about momentum. They slipped into the pro-bending stadium through a quieter entrance this time, finding themselves in a locker room tucked away from the main arena. The roar of the crowd was muffled here, distant but heavy in the air, and sitting on a bench inside were two familiar figures, Bolin was slouched forward, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. Mako leaned against the wall nearby, arms crossed tight, jaw set like he was daring the world to say something else wrong tonight. Korra slowed, surprise flickering across her face. "I didn't miss your match, did I?" she asked, glancing between them. "You guys look like you already lost." Bolin sighed, shoulders sinking even lower. "We might as well have." Mako's glare sharpened. Hasuk didn't show. Naruto caught the way Korra's excitement faltered, not vanished, just redirected. A referee poked his head in through the door. 2 minutes. If you're not out there ready to play, you're disqualified. And then he was gone again. Mako scoffed bitterly. That's it. Tournament's over. So's the prize money. Korra tilted her head, eyes flicking toward another team gearing up across the room. Can't you grab someone else to fill in? Bolin shook his head. Rules say you can only play on one team. There was a pause. A beat too long, then Korra straightened, a grin tugging at her lips as she tapped her chest. Well. How about me? Naruto felt it before Bolin said it, the shift, the spark. I'm a pretty great waterbender, Korra added, arms crossing with confidence that felt earned tonight. Bolin blinked. But, you're the avatar. Isn't that cheating? It's not cheating if I only waterbend, she shot back immediately. Mako pushed off the wall. No. Absolutely not. I'd rather forfeit than look like a fool out there. Korra's grin flattened. Wow. Thanks for the confidence. Naruto exhaled through his nose, stepping forward just enough to be heard. You're already down a teammate, he said calmly. Worst case, you lose with her. Best case. You don't. Mako glanced at him, clearly annoyed, but he didn't argue. The referee's voice echoed again. Time's up. You in or out? We're in, Korra said instantly. Mako turned on her. We are? Yes. Bolin jumped to his feet at the same time Korra bolted for the equipment closet, already grinning like this was the most natural decision in the world. Hey! Mako started, pointing after her. I didn't agree to this. Korra threw a look over her shoulder. You can thank me later. Naruto watched Mako scrub a hand down his face, muttering, this girl is insane. He smiled to himself, maybe, but tonight, for the first time in a while, insanity looked a lot like forward motion. The match began in a wash of noise, crowds roaring, lights blazing, the announcer shouting about a last-minute substitute for the rookie fire ferrets, but Naruto barely heard any of it. He tuned it all out the moment Korra stepped onto the platform. The way she rolled her shoulders, the way her eyes tracked the field, it wasn't the stance of an athlete. It was a fighter bracing for a real battle. That was the problem, she adapted fast, but she forgot this was a sport. In the first round she broke rule after rule without even realizing it, moving too aggressively, overcommitting, even throwing fire before catching herself. The arena erupted when people realized who she was. The avatar, right there in the ring. Naruto felt the shift immediately. Instead of expelling her, the officials let it slide, on one condition, water only. The opposing team didn't hesitate. From that point on, every attack came straight at Korra, relentless, coordinated, trying to knock her out first while they still could. The fire ferrets lost the round, hard. The second started the same way, pressure. Targeting, Korra taking hit after hit, but something changed as it went on. She stopped trying to overpower the field and started moving with it. She spun away from strikes instead of meeting them head-on, redirected force instead of crushing it, used Bolin's blocks as openings instead of obstacles. Water snapped back in clean arcs, precise and fast. It wasn't flashy. It was right. By the final round, the team moved like they'd been together for years, instinctive coordination overwhelming their opponents until there was nowhere left to stand. When it ended, it wasn't dramatic. It was decisive. The fire ferrets advanced to the finals. Naruto leaned back as the crowd roared, a small smile tugging at his face. Korra would be a great avatar, he was sure of that now. She learned by living, by moving, by failing forward until things finally clicked. As for him, he'd already decided. He would open the scroll, not because he had to, not to catch up or compensate, but to learn about himself. Even so, as certain as that choice felt, uncertainty lingered. Not fear. Just the quiet knowledge that once he started down that path, there'd be no pretending it didn't change him. That's it for today. I hope you liked the video. Please like and subscribe, and comment ideas if you can, and maybe you could share this with your friends, because you never know, they might like what ifs too. So without further ado, All Kage, out.